I'm Philburt, President and CEO of AIM Employers Association, and welcome to This Week at Work.
Welcome to the only show about the workplace that offers you front row seats and a microphone, bringing you practical, timely, and accurate insights so that you can more effectively lead your organization. It's Thursday, April 13th, episode 226. Today, what's driving all these layoffs? Could it make hiring easier for you in 2023? And what expectations do top candidates have, and how can we meet them? Well, if you're curious about the answers to those questions, you've tuned into the right show. Heck, if you know the answer to these questions, we're glad you're here. But don't be stingy with all that knowledge. Share your thoughts with us. Just click the question mark icon to the right and lay it on us. We'll give you full credit too. That is, unless you choose to remain anonymous. All this and more on This Week at Work.
All right, welcome back, and thank you for joining us. Burt Garland's not going to be with us today. And you know, Nick, I'm going to take the high road. I'm not going to take the normal path that Burt does when I'm not on the program, and you know, he starts making fun of me. He plays nice guy when we're on the program together, but he doesn't always do that when we're eye to eye.
Oh, so abusive.
You know, today I'm just going to take the high road and say, look, Burt's very busy with his customers. He's serving them well, as we would expect him to do, and he'll be back on the program next week. Burt, I hope you're doing well, and you're not too much of, you know, a big baby because you couldn't get up early this morning after a late night of travel. I'm not going to say those things.
Speaking of big baby, just don't comment on his different. He probably he's out because he's getting a facelift. Don't comment on him looking younger when he comes back on.
No, not at all. It is what it is. We're going to take the high road today, and we hope that Burt will be back with us next week. Okay, sorry about that, Burt. We tried. We have a pretty good lineup here today. We have our guest, Randy Sims, with us from Sims Search. He's been on the program before. He is a longtime AIM partner. Good morning, Randy. How are you doing?
Great. Good morning, Phil. Thanks for having me here.
You're looking good. You have a new logo going. Tell me about your new look here.
Yeah, we rebranded, new logo, new website, so lots of exciting stuff.
Yeah, that looks great. I like the look.
Thank you.
I like that you kept with the magnifying glass. That fits the idea of search very well. Randy, sit tight just with us for 1 minute. We're going to come right back to you. We've spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks, and we've been sprinkling into that, you know, all the news of layoffs, primarily in big tech. But what we're really not seeing is a lot of relief as it relates to the recruiting efforts that all of us are having challenges with. And we wanted to bring Randy onto the program and talk a little bit about that. Randy is one of our top recruiting partners here at AIM. He handles all of our executive searches and does an excellent job. Randy also found me for this job here at AIM, to be honest with you, and he was out on the search for that as it was his assignment, and I'd like to think he did a great job in that selection. So thank you for that, Randy. But Randy has helped us do some very high-end searches, as well as, you know, not always the high-end searches, but the tough-to-fill jobs, and just does a wonderful job actually matching the culture of the company with the candidate. And that is not something every organization is able to do. I hear them all say that they do it, but I can attest that Randy does that and does it very well over at Sims Search. Let's set up some questions for us today on the poll questions. And we also would like to get your comments for Randy. If you have anything in particular you want to ask him, please submit them into the comments and we'll be sure to get to those for you. So the first poll question is, what is currently the biggest challenge you face in attracting and hiring top talent? Is it competition from the other employers, lack of qualified candidates, salary and compensation constraints, lengthy hiring process, or other? You can't select all, but you can select one. If you do select other, give us some comments of what that is for you. And the second poll question is, describe how you feel about the current job market in one word. You know, we like these wordles, but how do you feel about it in one word? Keep it clean, and we'd like to get to that. And then we do have a third question here, and that is, how has the competition for talent affected your organization's hiring strategy? I know firsthand many companies have had to change their strategy, not only last year, but this year, and they continue to make adjustments. So if you could give us one of those responses as well. Those are 3 great poll questions. Randy, thank you for helping us put those together. All right. So Randy, first, tell us, you have a new website. How can people find you out on the web? Where do they go to find SimSearch?
That's it. Simsearch.com.
I like it. It's simple.
SEARCH. Yeah,
Yep.
simple.
All right. And you can also contact Randy by going through your AIM advisor here. Let us know. We'll be able to put you in touch with Randy if you decide you like what you hear after this program. But today we're going to get into a few things. I want to set it up with Philburt's Forum. Nick, if you can play that for us, please.
You've just entered Philburt's Forum, where we peel the onion back and take a lighter look at the workplace.
All right, Nick, what do we have here?
Depending on where you are on social media, it's making its way viral around the World Wide Web. But a social media influencer named Kendall Brown shared what she's claiming to be a job posting that she found on Indeed from Arthur Grant Technologies. And unfortunately, in that red highlighted area there, it says only born U.S. citizens, in parentheses, white, who are local within 60 miles from Dallas, Texas, in parentheses, don't share with candidates. That seems a little fishy, but certainly if it's up there, that is not good for your company if you're trying to hire people and show that you have a good inclusive culture. And and so, you know, that gets posted, and then another person comes on and says, okay, that's not real, right? And the lady says, I wish it was. This is a fully legit listing, although it's been taken down. And then we get into the company is Arthur Grant Technologies, an IT firm that has offices in Dallas, Texas. And they claim that a former employee actually edited the existing posting, added discriminatory language, and reposted the position through his own account. And there's kind of debate of what that means. But how they reacted to it, the company said the moment this was brought to our attention, we worked with the job portal to remove the offensive posting. And they, according to the Dallas Morning News, they have initiated legal action against the former employee.
All right. Well, that's quite interesting. So it's kind of funny, not funny, in the sense that, you know, these things can go off radar really quick. And it sounds like with a existing employee or an exiting employee who was disgruntled, they still had access in some way or another, or were able to edit their personal account, which must have had something to do with a company posting. I know at AIM we do that. We share and like and comment on each other's accounts, often on LinkedIn. And, you know, it wouldn't be hard for somebody who was leaving the business to make some changes and make that posting. And that's kind of the risk we take, which also tells us why, you know, sometimes we should be watching these types of things. I mean, I can't believe in today's world someone would do such a thing like that. But what the scary part, there's 2 scary parts. One is Kendall Brown said it's absolutely legit. And here the company is saying that it's not legit. So I'm not sure what the truth is. But Nick, why are you following Kendall Brown? Who is Kendall Brown, and why are you following that?
That's a really good question here. Let me see if I can get myself on camera here. Yeah, that's a good question, although you're not going to get any dirt on me, okay? I have people within the office here who are actively looking for things that are a little odd in HR so that we can bring it to the show. And if we can make examples of what not to do before we do it, that's a good thing.
I think it is a very good lesson. I appreciate that. I'm glad you are telling me, or not telling me, Monique brought that to your attention. But nevertheless, the importance of, you know, we do want to get our exposure on LinkedIn. Maybe Randy, you can talk about the importance of that, or does it really help? There's a perception that it does, but maybe you have an opinion on that in a moment. But nevertheless, we got to be careful with that. So that's Philburt's Forum. Good job, Nick, bringing that to our attention. All right, Randy, let's get things kicked off this morning. I'm glad to have you back on the program. You've done just a fantastic job serving our members over the 10 years I have partnered with you. I couldn't be more pleased with the outcomes. I mean, we have filled CEO positions, CFO positions, board positions, engineering, management, every position, every field, healthcare, manufacturing, you name it, successor positions to ownership. We've done all kinds of work together, but that's not all we do. What are some of the other things that you do that aren't so high profile?
Well, I think, part of what we do too during the search is just being able to give the companies that are working with us a really good benchmark of what's going on in the market. I mean, the great thing about partnering with AIM, when we do these searches, you get the compensation surveys, you get the background checks, all these things bundled in. And through our work, we can add additional data to those compensation surveys, bringing back real lifetime, this candidate's making this, they're at this position. So it's a very consultative approach. We're not just going out. We do not do any postings. We don't put the positions out on Indeed or whatever. Ours is all through a network of sourcing and referrals and going in and doing research to similar companies or competitors. And so you're getting that data back to the company when they're doing the hiring too, knowing what's going on in their specific market, which I think is a big help for them. And we've actually seen companies make changes within their organization. I can give you one real quick example. Several years ago, we were working on a pretty high level position that was requiring a lot of travel, but all their competitors had about 20% less travel. So they asked us to collect some more data from their competitors. They took that back to their senior executives. They knew they had to make some changes in that area. They restructured the geography that would lower the amount of travel, and they were able to become much more competitive.
Absolutely. So, Randy, I'm hearing you say we. What does that mean? So is that you? What's your team look like? Give us a little insight into Sim Search, and now I want to get into some of the things that people should be thinking about as they go into a recruiting activity.
We have 5 executive recruiters and 3 interns. So it's a good team. We all do the same things. We're all in sourcing, recruiting, working with the clients, bringing the information, and collaborate on each search. It's a very specific project, so we can get it done, quickly and efficiently.
Randy, what kind of searches do you not do?
We don't do physicians, doctors, or clinicians, and we don't do hourly searches, hourly individuals or
direct hire. Yeah. Okay. Everything else kind of falls within the magnifying glass there that's sitting
pretty much. Yeah, okay. Pretty much. Throughout the country, I think we've worked in 43 different states, helped a lot of AIM members that have locations outside of the St. Louis area as well. And so, pretty broad industry spectrum.
Great. All right. So let's get into a few nitty gritty things here. So there's been lots of discussion over the last, I would say the last 5-6 months that people are big tech is laying off. We've heard about the Google and the Amazons and everyone that's doing these layoffs, and they're creating an impression in some professionals' eyes that, oh, this is making it easier for my HR manager to recruit the people they're looking for. Can you just talk a little bit about what are you seeing as it relates to the big tech layoffs or the large organizations that have had some layoffs in their executive teams, and the work that most of our members are faced with today going, that's not really helping me at all?
Yeah, we're seeing it more in just pockets as when it comes to recruiting. It's nothing like what happened in 2020 where people stopped hiring. One example, I had called into a candidate at Amazon, pretty senior level individual, and he started kind of letting me know what had happened in stages there, and they made some adjustments to their compensation. Amazon is very famous for loading up a lot on stock versus the base salary, and so a lot of people never wanted to leave. So they made some changes. They started doing layoffs. They over predicted the online shopping was going to continue at a very, very high level. But this gentleman had 3 other potential offers. He's deep in the process of 3 other interviews besides the position that we were talking to him about. So when you see things like that, it doesn't make the recruiting any easier. There's still, what we see, even with some layoffs, more opportunities, more openings out there that companies are struggling to find. So that we haven't seen the scales shift. And some of our experts in our industry that, we can consider our key trainers and so forth, they're telling us that it's going to be at least another 3 years until we see things potentially balance out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, part of that, I've shared slides on the program here many times. When you look at it, we still have, I think it's, almost 10 million job openings, according to the Bureau of Business statistics that are out there. That still is a lot of layoffs before you get to a point where it looks like it has in the past. And so I continue to tell people, I don't think it's ever going to go back. You think you're optimistic with 3 years, because I don't know what changes that unless we have a change in immigration, or if, we go into a really deep and very long recession to where we, erode the need for employment demands like we're seeing today, which actually would be very scary, I think, for, our country's productivity. So when you're looking for candidates, what is it that the candidate is telling you is important to them?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a completely different conversation now. I mean, candidates, it's very similar to the home market. And everyone kept thinking, well, the interest rates are going up, but still people are getting over asking price for their houses, right? And multiple bids. And so it's the same thing. The candidates are still, pretty much in demand, and they know it. So our conversations now, they like to take charge right up front. Okay, tell me first, where, before I waste your time, my time, is this remote? What are we looking at from a compensation standpoint? Usually those things that were taboo to talk about at first until you sold yourself. They want to know that they have a lot more confidence that if this position isn't right, I'm just going to move on to the next one. And they often have multiple opportunities going on at once. So they've got their list of things that are important to them. They want to know those things up front to see if it's even worth having the conversation. It's just a different style of recruiting. We're still doing everything we have to do to get the right candidate, but we have to go through a lot more conversations before we, can get the right person.
Are you having any experiences where most employers today, I think, practice some form of hybrid? Pardon me, Randy. Are you having any situations where employers are not able to be hybrid, and then therefore, because of that, you can't match candidates?
Yes, we've had some companies of recent switch to a hybrid role, specifically for recruiting purposes. That's the only reason. There are some companies that have continued to be 100% in office, and usually HR and talent acquisition, that's not by their choice. It's by a senior level person that says, we're just going to keep doing this. And they realize
some silly CEO somewhere is saying that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But they are, but it makes it, they realize that they're losing, candidates to, other companies that are providing that. So most companies are offering some type of a hybrid now, but there's still a lot that are not.
So tell me a little bit about the conversation you're having with HR and talent acquisition when it comes to internal equity. I'm guessing, I know by working with many employers, there's this challenge of the talent pool that's available that we can bring in is demanding higher salaries or compensation than the companies are paying internally. And while they feel that they're competitive internally, that outside pressure is creating a different market for them internally. How is that being addressed, or how are you even running into that problem?
Yeah, I just had a conversation yesterday with a chief HR officer. Their company, unfortunately, is sticking 100% to internal equity situations. They're not willing to bend at all, even for the perfect candidate. And then we have other companies that realize if we are going to capture the talent, we're going to have to make some internal changes. That may be, realigning the title of this person, just somehow getting creative I think overall, what we're seeing is the people who, stay very black and white on all these decisions are struggling. The ones who realize there has to be some gray area and we can get creative and we can be fun with this and we can look at, instead of bringing this person in as a manager, we're going to go ahead and bring them in as a director because they've got that experience and now we can pay them what they need to, or just kind of have to go away from the internal equity piece a little bit and push that aside in order, to fill their positions.
Yeah, I have a comment here on chat line, Randy. It's asking, do candidates seem to have a better idea of what they want now? If you think about, 10 years ago, candidates that you were recruiting for versus candidates today, do they have a better idea of what they want, or are they just willing to compromise less?
That's a good question. I think they don't, I don't think they necessarily have a better idea of exactly what they want. I think a lot of it is they're wanting to test the market.
Okay.
And sometimes they've used that exact language. I had a conversation with someone the other day, a couple of days ago, and he said, yeah, I really, I just think I'm undervalued here. Not sure if I'm really interested in this position. I'm really just kind of wanting to test the market. So he's probably calling multiple recruiters and kind of seeing, and maybe he's going to go back. Maybe he's got, kind of the guts to go back to his, his boss and say, hey, I could do this, I could be going here for this. And but I think they know what they want from a work-life balance and so forth standpoint. If they've gotten used to something back that switched in 2020, I think they've had a certain thing now that, that they know from their long-term career that how they want to work and how they work the most efficiently.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a little bit less willing to compromise on what their wants are.
Yes,
it goes back to the home market. I want to test the market. I'm maybe wasn't interested in selling my house, but maybe this is the right time to do it. And it's a little bit of, I'm not willing to compromise, or to your point, I want to leverage my current employer. And I've had that as well, where people are like, hey, I'm on, I'm not looking, but people are asking me, and here's what I can make, and what can you do to help me in that area? Let's take a look at our poll questions so far. We got some good responses. If you can cue those up for us there, producer Nick. All right, so the first question we have here is, what is currently the biggest challenge you face in attracting and hiring top talent? Randy, by far and in large, it's the lack of qualified candidates. All right, I want to get your just response to that. Lack of qualified candidates. Are you finding a lack of qualified candidates in the search area?
There's a lack of qualified candidates, but it's what are you willing to do to get the candidates?
All right, so tell me more about that.
Well, I think it's again, the companies that are staying more stringent with their same recruiting practices that they have forever. And we have clients that are like that. They feel that there is a lack of qualified candidates. However, other companies are getting those candidates. So it's what are you doing, to beat out the competition? So, there's a lack of homes on the ocean for $250,000, right?
Right.
You watch those shows on, House Hunters or whatever, and the people are like, I want a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom on the ocean, and I want it for $250,000. And I use that example with hiring companies. You want this, and this, but it's going to cost you this, and this is what the market is paying, and this is what your competitors are paying. So I think it's, what are you willing to do to get the qualified candidates is a big part of that.
Yeah. And I think what I have found is the companies that have a compensation strategy, and I mean, where they've worked with a professional, they understand the market, they've done the right things over the last few years to get, their internal employees paid at a competitive range. And what I mean by competitive is not just 50th percentile, because I think that's what you run against is, well, if you're paying 50th percentile and you want to hire somebody who's really good coming into your organization, they're probably above the 50th percentile. And then that creates this internal market. So I don't mean someone who pays at the 50th percentile, right? With that, you only get a choice of candidates below the 50th percentile who are looking for a pay raise to come to your organization. So organizations that have good competitive strategies in their compensation model, those companies are probably not struggling as much when you bring candidates to them, is my guess. Companies who maybe don't have that are struggling with, taking on the compensation concepts of a new employee when that happens. Let's look at, go ahead, Randy.
I'll just add to that. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I had a conversation with another chief HR officer a couple of weeks ago, and the CEO is having to approve this, but he said, we haven't benchmarked our salary since 2018. And, you can't buy a car now. You can't get a house. You can't get groceries. You can't get gasoline, so why should we be paying people now what we paid them in 2018? So I think, and that's one of the, again, the great things about working with AIM and Chris Gaffel. One of the things up front that, we can offer is to do that through the compensation surveys. But if a company hasn't gone through it and done that in a year or more, they need to do that to make sure that they are staying competitive, or it'll create hard to recruit and/or turnover, right? So
absolutely, which then creates the need to recruit more for sure. All right, let's look at this next question here. Is how has your competition for talent affected your organization's hiring strategy? We got a couple leading indicators here. First, it's increased compensation offers. I think we just talked about that, and it's unfortunate. None of us want to do that. We want to manage our cost internally, but for sure it's going to do that if indeed we are out of whack, even more so. And then the next one is develop a stronger retention strategy. And, sometimes the outcome of an unfortunate situation causes you to maybe shore up some good things internally and have you better retention. And if anyone was a part of my business trends report that I did back in February, yes, we talked all about retention strategies. That is the key, so that we're really growing or needing to add employees because of growth, not necessarily because we're having the turnover problems that we had. Anything else on here that jumps out to you, Randy, that you want to comment on?
Yeah, I think the enhanced recruitment marketing efforts, I think sometimes we miss the easiest things on that and probably the least costly things on that. What I see companies that do this very well is just making it a very personalized situation. So that means who all is talking to the candidate during the process. It's definitely a relationship back and forth. And companies that are going out of their way, making the entire recruitment process, the people showing up on time at the company to interview. We've had interviews where, the leaders, the hiring managers, they didn't show up on time, just simple things. But then also when they're onboarding them, making them feel special. We just placed someone through an AIM member the other day, and she put this glowing report out on LinkedIn, everything that AIM member had done for them on their first day, just made them feel great, was bragging about the culture. So I think a lot of it is just treating people, you find someone that you really like, and, we've done this before. Maybe it's not the best HR example, but recruiting and dating are a lot of, alike. You want to treat that person like they want to be treated, like you want to be treated. And, you're going to be spending a lot of time with them at work. So it's kind of that courting relationship. You want them to stay updated during the process, knowing where they stand. If it's going to be, longer than what you thought, let them know so they don't lose interest. The mind works in the similar ways as a personal relationship as it does a hiring relationship.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, buy me dinner and I'll work for you.
Yeah.
Well, I know from my own personal experience in recruiting and using you to help us fill some positions. And, I think, when we look at that, you helped us fill a position here just recently out in Indiana. And, we have Deborah out there. I'm sure she's listening. Good morning, Deborah. I mean, she's doing a fantastic job, but, we also have up in our Central Illinois office, up in Peoria, we have Corinne, and she's doing a great job onboarding both of those individuals. It has really been, we took a special effort in that compared to how we've done it in the past because of just what you said, that personal relationship and getting things off off the ground in the right way. All right, one last chart before we go here. Randy, get your comments on this. This is the Wordle, the most common phrases or one single words people use to describe recruiting today. Tough, frustrating, competitive, fast, challenging. Any of these words surprise you? Anything you want to comment on?
No surprises, but I think you can take those things and, today you have to look at recruiting almost like a sport. And if you're competitive and you're going to train and you're going to be prepared and you're going to beat out your competition, you're going to come out ahead. If you sit back and get frustrated and, oh man, this is, now this happened and this happened, and kind of drop your head, then you're not going to win. You got to stay in it the long haul. There may be counter offers. You got to be prepared how to handle a counter offer and have that thought out ahead of time. And if you're ready and excited about it, those are the companies that are winning, and it won't become frustrating that way.
I like that sports analogy. I'm going to use that one. Thank you for that, Randy. All right. Well, that brings us to the 8 o'clock hour. If you're planning to join us for the AIM Leadership Conference coming up on May 3rd, we look forward to seeing you there. There's only 50 seats or so left, maybe less than that by now. So if you're waiting to register, please do so. Again, we don't want to have to tell you maybe next year. We'd like to have you with us this year. Take advantage of those few seats that are left. And they go quick when someone ends up buying a table of 10. So if you would please register for that. We look forward to seeing you. We have guests coming from all around the region and across the United States. It's going to be a fantastic conference. And with that, we will be back online next week at 7:30. Maybe Bert will decide to get out of bed and join us. We'll see you then. Take care. Until then, be good to people.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link, aimea.org/thisweekatwork, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment, like LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you are. And you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.